It wouldn't be a Monday without some mundane happening, with Karen Read's trial starting off with 3 motions this morning. But the good news is we finally ended Bukhenik's testimony. Day 14 of Karen Read's trial wrapped up on Monday, and here's what happened during it. Hi, my name is Sydney Rushing. I'm a criminal defense attorney in the state of Michigan. Now let's talk about it. As I mentioned, this morning started off with 3 motions, one of which was one about the Aruba incident. The prosecutor said that they were not going to be bringing in unless the defense opened the door. And that's what they are suggesting, is that the defense opened the door last week when they were questioning Bukhenik about some text messages. They want to bring a few witnesses in to testify about the event. And after hearing those motions, judge brought the jury back and told them that she's going to do her best to lessen the sidebars. And Bukhenik was back in the hot seat for his continuation of his cross-examination. We found out during this cross-examination was a few things. First of all, that he can't recall when the plow driver saw a Ford Edge outside of Fairview, but he does recall that Brian Albert does own a Ford Edge. Then he got called out because he said that there was no ring footage of Karen returning to One Meadows. However, he said that the Ring app on John's phone was accessed by investigators. He was questioned about the injuries on John's arms, the lacerations, and the abrasions. He was asked why he didn't correct the discrepancy in his report regarding the time that Karen's SUV was seized. He was asked again about the text with Proctor, one when they were talking about Yannetti and how Proctor saying, "I hate this guy, I really hate him," and in regards to Karen not having any nudes on her phone. And how he didn't take any actions regarding Proctor's comments. Did agree, however, that that comment did not show honor or integrity, and that it wasn't professional in any way. But somehow he rated Proctor as excellent in the communication skills part of his performance evaluation that happened in October of 2022, which was after the whole text debacle. He confirmed that he and Proctor interviewed Chris and Julie Albert, and that, Proctor said he knew them from around town, but didn't really know much outside of that. He then showed some surveillance footage of the Canton Police Department, which showed a Jeep with a plow pulling up around 1:30 in the morning, which looked like Higgins, and so did the figure that got out of the vehicle and was also talking on the phone before he left. He said he had a professional relationship with Higgins, but nothing outside of that, and that there was no reason for him to try and get his phone data, even though he saw him on the phone at 1:34 a.m. outside the police station. Then the jury was dismissed and sent for lunch while the parties remained, and Judge Cannoni heard arguments about whether Bukhenik could talk about the internal affairs investigation against Proctor, and she ended up ruling that he could not. Then they all finally got some lunch. Then after lunch, we kept those jurors' attention by introducing the Sallyport video of Karen's car. Even though he stated that he and Proctor never went to the right side of the vehicle, this video is actually mirrored, and he agreed that yes, they actually did go to the right side of the vehicle, but he couldn't tell how close Proctor got to the taillight area. Another non-answer. Then he was shown the video that was flipped and in real time and how it really happened. He was asked about Proctor walking away from the broken taillight area with a black portfolio before pieces of the taillight were found at the scene, and Bukhenik said it was possible. Then there was 2 other angles shown of the Sallyport. However, neither of those angles included a portion to where Proctor was seen near the right taillight. And Brennan finally got a chance at redirect, and the first thing he asked him is if he inverted the video in any way, and he said no. Said that he didn't see Proctor hand any pieces of taillight to anyone, and that he didn't remove any pieces of the taillight himself. Then Brennan went into an area that he knew better than to go into and started asking Bukhenik about his investigative processes, including hearing that Karen said, "Did I hit him? Did I hit him?" To which there was a bunch of objections by the defense. And if you can imagine, Judge Cannoni actually sustained those objections, and she should have. Brennan, you know better. Come on now. He stated that after viewing his injuries, that his thought process went from him being, hit by a cocktail glass to him being hit by a vehicle. He also tried to be sneaky and say that it would have, been the force necessary to cause the head injury. However, the defense objected to that, and judge sustained it and told the jury to strike that and forget that statement was ever said. He said people were interviewed in their homes instead of the police department because they had just been through a really tragic event and the roads were still in really bad shape. He then introduced a few more pieces of taillight, which is weird that this wasn't done on direct in the first part, because usually redirect is supposed to be within the purview of cross. And so to introduce new evidence outside of that is kind of odd. He also introduced a picture of John's hat, which was covered with snow. Then they introduced the jeans that John was wearing, to where Bukhenik said, based on the stain on the pants, it suggested that he had landed on his left glute. And by the way, glute is just a fancy word for booty cheek. He did say that he told Higgins that whatever he was telling him better be spot on and correct, because otherwise he and his career would suffer the consequences of it. Because obviously Higgins is a police officer. In regards to the text messages, he also said that he didn't see any animosity or any reason that Higgins would want to hurt, harm, or unalive John in any way. And then on recross, Jackson hit him with the, "You interviewed Higgins at his attorney's office." as he should. Higgins was smart, unlike the rest of them, and that he didn't believe that he had any motive to want to harm John, even if he was jealous or something like that because of John and Karen's relationship and obviously the text messages that him and Karen had, sent between each other. And he said that this was based on the totality of the investigation. He was asked if there was other ways that John's pants could have been stained, such as dragging. And then they talked about beer guts, or in another way that Bukhenik wanted to describe it, which makes more sense, is liquid courage. And finally, after 3 days on the stand, Bukhenik was excused as a witness. Not only did that wrap up Bukhenik's testimony, but it also wrapped up day 14 of Karen's trial. So thanks for being here. Thanks for following along. And I'm glad that you guys are enjoying these recaps. And I look forward to keep doing it and what's next to come. I just want to know, where's Proctor? Where is he at? Why haven't they called him yet? Call him now. We need him now. Here's the question of the day. Now that Bukhenik's testimony is finally wrapped up, take in the prior 3 days. And do you think that he was truthful in his testimony? Somewhat truthful in his testimony, or not truthful at all and evasive? Let me know in the comments.